Okay, family, something big just happened in Burkina Faso. The government of Burkina Faso released a statement, and the government has decided to end all relation with France, to end it all. You know, every link that still connect France somehow, anyhow, to Burkina Faso in terms of diplomatic engagement, right? We can call it either grace period or whatever. When the French were chased out, their military base were chased out and their control mechanism were broken down. There was diplomatic door is still available for France to use the opportunity to rebrand the relation between France and Burkina Faso. I mean, including the Sahel, just as others are doing, because there are a lot of people who have been affected by the new structure governing Burkina Faso right now. But many of these people, they are using different means. They have rebranded the relation that so that it can align with the country's sovereignty and respect system that they put in place to make sure that every relationship that they are going to have with any country anywhere in the world should respect the sovereignty of Burkina Faso. But in this regard, France has decided not to use this opportunity, I'll call it, this link that still connect France somehow, anyhow, to Burkina Faso in terms of diplomatic engagement to rebrand the relationship between France and Burkina Faso. They rather went forward and they started using, or if I should say it, they are trying to either use force and manipulation, media narrative, and the support for the T group and all that. So the government look at the whole thing and they're like, no, this cannot continue. And I'm going to play a particular video. Now you see some of the things that some of the French diplomat and the people who are part of the government and the policy makers and things, some of the things they are saying, they want Europe to team up with France to do in respect to the Sahel. Let's hang that aside. So the government of Burkina Faso released a statement and they have decided to end their relationship completely on all forms, every door, every links shut down against France following the resolution which was passed in the European Union Parliament, where Mr. Goment made certain remarks which, according to the government of Burkina Faso, they disclaim that those remarks with the figures that is being put out there does not reflect the reality on the ground in Burkina Faso. And so they did not even feel remorse, okay, because we can see some of their media houses carrying this whole narrative and trying to portray it in a different format. So the government said, no, it is not going to happen. This is what they pulled out. Let me read it for you before we move forward. The government of Burkina Faso informed the national and international community that it has decided to sever diplomatic relation with the French Republic effective today, June 26, 2026. This decision follows a thorough assessment of the current state of bilateral relation between Burkina Faso and France. Indeed, the conditions essential for fostering relations based on mutual respect, reciprocal trust, respect for the principle of non-interference in internal affairs and national sovereignty are no longer met. This state of affair is reflected, among other things, in the relentless activism of the regime in power in France against the interests of Burkina Faso, in its overt neo-colonial ambitions and active support for subversive networks and this T group who are bringing grief to our country and the Sahel, and in the pedophy and bias of the discourse and opinion surrounding our country, aim at making it a pariah of the international community. Faced with this imperialist aim of dominating our country and enslaving our people, we have chosen responsibility and sovereignty. The government wishes to emphasize that this decision in no way calls into question the historical, human, cultural, and social tie that unite the Burkinabe and French people. It concerns exclusively the institutional framework of relation between the two states at the diplomatic level. So, in other words, what they're trying to do, or the decision they are taking right now, is it has absolutely nothing to do with the citizens of France. living in the country or abroad. This whole thing is something happening at the diplomatic level. The government reassures national and international public opinion of its will and commitment to ensuring the protection of its citizens, to whom it reaffirms its hospitality, as well as the preservation of their interests. It calls upon all citizens to demonstrate responsibility, restraint, and civic mindset towards French citizens and all expatriates living in Burkina Faso in strict compliance with the laws of the Republic. The government reaffirmed its determination to pursue an independent foreign policy based on the diversification of its partnership, the strengthening of South-South cooperation, the development of balanced relations with all states, and the promotion of peace, security, and sustainable development. This was a statement released by the government of Burkina Faso on 26 June 2026. All doors shut down against France. Now, one of the things is that, let me play this video to you, then you will notice that the French, they are not resting, right? Look at what some of their guys, most of the time they speak French. So we miss a lot. This conversation, or this video I'm going to play right now, is a conversation in the mouth of many of the French diplomatic leaders, commentators, leaders, policymakers. This is one thing that they are planning, which is the reason why in the European Parliament, they are pushing a narrative. A narrative must go through before this agenda can be pushed through. Listen to this.
For us Europeans,
it was actually in French, so I translated it, and the translation is accurate.
For us Europeans, it is the Mediterranean and Africa where our destiny is at stake. And so we have constantly tried, we French, to lead the Europeans in this awareness of the need to act collectively in Africa and the Mediterranean. And I am absolutely sorry to see the failure of our commitments in the Sahel.
And I think that in any case, we will have to ask ourselves the question again. It is simply unconscious. And so I think that this common interest should one day lead Europe to decide to act as a political entity and to defend its own interests, including through the engagement of its armies.
Europe needs to act based on their interests because their interest is threatened. And according to him, it looks like some of the Europeans are paying not too much attention to this whole thing, but this threatens their interest and their survival. And so therefore, France is trying to lead the rest of the Europe to act decisively in matters of the Sahel. And if possible, that is what he said, the use of military to do what? Conclude that yourself. So you can see that everything they are doing, when they see themselves with the camera, the microphone, these are the conversation. And the people who are in the European Parliament, they are also championing this agenda. And this whole thing has become a whole banter. But at the same time, I mean, there's the diplomatic door being opened by the same leader that you are criticizing. Why don't you use the diplomatic door to change the way you look at these countries, to change the way you perceive these people? But on the media, whatever you find yourself, you try to use propaganda. So far, so good. When you look at the issue of the Sahel, France somehow, I don't know, but it looks like France is so much into pushing this whole thing than the rest of the countries. France is the only country right now, currently, that mostly when you look at their urge to not to move forward without the country that they have colonized, France, they can't just change the relation. That is the problem of France. France is not able to change the relation. They want to maintain the relationship the way it was from the beginning after colonialism and neo-colonialism set in. They want to maintain it like that, like master and servant relation. That is what they are trying to do. But guess what? Ibrahim Traoré, together with its government, is not part of this conversation. These people, they choose what? Responsibility and sovereignty, as they said in their statement. And before this whole thing pop up, or before the Burkina government pull out this engagement, you can see that, I mean, they have even delayed when you look at it to pull this out. To me, they have delayed to pull this out because when you look at how these people are using the media against you, how they are going through your back, and then the T group are also being sponsored, how these people in the European Parliament. This is not the first time, the second time this is happening in the European Parliament, where they are putting out figures and things, documentation. When you look at the people who are so much interested in anti-narrative about the Sahel, it is mostly the French. The media, when you look at RFI, France 24, and I mean, you can name them right there. You understand? So you can see that it is a thing all the way to the high level, to the highest authority in France, and then it's playing out. So this is a decision taken by the government of Burkina Faso. Since you say the country is not a good place to be with, you give ultimatum to your people to leave the country sometimes, or you say they should come back. Air France want to go back to the Sahel. They say they shouldn't come back. And you can see that there's been this back and forth. France doesn't know how to rebrand the relationship to make it work for their interests, just as others are doing. They want to still go with the force, with the propaganda, with the deception, with the anti-narrative, with everything that they know how to do best. Changing become a problem. There are other countries, even the United States, there is, although they are doing, kind of similar thing in that way, they are all kind of the same, but one way or the other, the diplomatic door being open, okay, by Burkina Faso to these Western countries, some of them are using it very well to actually change the relationship, to keep along and maintain, to work things in their favor, and they will benefit, Burkina Faso will benefit, mutual respect and mutual interest. That's what we call diplomatic relationship. So that door which has been open, I mean, France should have used that door to change the situation. I don't know how many of you watched the video on the interview that Traoré had, which became a whole lot on the media. Traoré made it clear on that interview that, look, honestly speaking, they, as a matter of fact, they don't, France is not their enemy, right? France is not their enemy. Even if France come and then they say, let's sit down and redefine our relationship, and it will be based on respect, sovereignty, and interest of the country, they'll consider, because the country is open for business. France can come, US can come, EU can come. Even the EU, where their parliament is carrying this conversation up and down, they are having diplomatic engagement with Burkina Faso. United States is having diplomatic engagement with Burkina Faso. The only country, when you look at it so far, all the countries are having diplomatic relation with Burkina Faso, one way or the other. The only country left finding it difficult to maintain that diplomatic relation with Burkina Faso, and they are beating around the bush and they want to go about it the way they have been going about it before Traoré came, is France. When you look at the United States, they are using the diplomatic language here, and then they are doing the other things also there. Both of them are working together. Somehow anyhow, they are playing well with the diplomatic. They are doing, somehow anyhow, the diplomatic level engagement, there's no difficulties when it comes to Burkina Faso and the United States, Burkina Faso and others. But France, they're interested in propaganda and all the other things that go with it. So you can see that the Sahel is a vital space for France, and losing the Sahel is a big deal for France right there. And somehow anyhow, the narrative is not pushing out. I don't know what to think about this, but many of you people can relate to what is going on. You know the story already. So let me know your thought in the comment section. This is the decision of the Burkinabe government. What do you think? Is it a fair decision? Is it too harsh? Or you think something else can be done about it? Let me know your thought in the comment section. Respect.